Okay. So, how did you first get started crocheting?
Well, I actually started over 40 years ago. So I've been crocheting for a really long time. I come from a large family and I had four younger brothers, and my little sister didn't arrive until I was 11. So my mom, to help me escape the dinosaurs and He-Man and G.I. Joe, she wanted me to do something outside the home, and she wanted me to learn something as well. So we had a really good friend that lived down the street from us, and we called her Aunt Dorothy. She wasn't related at all, but she was a wonderful woman, and I would go over there every week and learn crochet. She actually taught me how to sew and knit as well. She was a master seamstress. I mean, she was amazing.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, she was a great lady. So we spent a lot of years where I would go over there every week, and I would enter in 4-H and all that kind of good stuff. And so I crocheted for a lot of years actually that way as a kid. And I was probably the only kid I knew that crocheted. I mean, it was like an old
Yeah.
lady thing to do back then, you know? Um, And,
Awesome.
I kind of got away from it actually when I graduated from high school. You know, you get busy with life and everything, and then got
Mhm,
married, had kids, then the
mhm.
grandkids, and I was like, "Wow, I really enjoyed crocheting and wanted to get back into that." And so I started making gifts, blankets, baby blankets, all that kind of good stuff, and
Mhm.
it kind of just blossomed into what I'm doing now. So, it's been
Oh,
kind of
that's
a journey.
awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to dive more during the interview. But it's so cool that your mom wanted you to have that connection with a female role model and
Mhm.
that she made that happen for you. That's so cool.
Yeah, and she lived until after I started, my business. So she was, in her 90s when she passed away
Oh,
just a couple of years ago, and
oh,
she was able to kind of follow along at the beginning in my journey, and she was just, so proud, and I'm gonna
yeah,
cry if I talk about it too
yeah.
much.
That's okay. You can cry.
But yeah, I am so grateful that she was able to see my success.
Oh my gosh. So was that your mom or Aunt Dorothy?
My Aunt Dorothy. So
Your Aunt
my mom
Dorothy.
my
Oh,
mom is still kicking.
oh, good,
She's
good.
always the first one I call whenever something awesome happens in my business.
Yeah.
My mom is like, yeah, my biggest cheerleader.
Yeah, I love that my mom's the same way too. I call her all the time asking her questions, and that's what that's
Yeah,
for.
yeah. It's great to have those people in your life that are just totally in your corner and
Mhm.
are so happy for your every success and are just always, anxious to hear about everything that you're doing.
Yeah,
And they're just so happy, that
yeah,
you're successful. So,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. It is. It makes such a difference, and it helps to ground you so that you can reach for new heights too.
Absolutely. It gives you the confidence that, well, hey, if they believe in me, maybe I should believe in me.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So, how long did it take for you to start experimenting and making your own patterns?
Well, this is always a fun question because I am a tad OCD about things, and I never ever actually tinkered with patterns ever. It was like I'm a rule follower. It's like they say to do this, so this is what I'm gonna do.
Ye
I never, never made actually any of my own designs. Never
Mhm,
designed anything, and I was really getting into crochet. This is when, crochet was like really hitting the scene. Younger people were getting into it. They were
mhm,
wanting to learn. And it was like a renaissance of the fiber world in a
mm,
little bit. It was like everywhere. It was on Facebook. And
mhm,
I thought, maybe I can design something. But it was also the kind of followed my journey of my business too, because I never designed anything until the very first pattern that I released on my blog.
mm,
And I designed it a month before I went live on my blog.
mm. Oh, wow.
It was like, I'm gonna do this, and so I'm just gonna jump off the cliff and do it.
That's incredible. So when was
Yeah.
that?
See, I went live on my blog. It would have been August 5th of 2017. So,
Wow.
I started, my first design in June, so 2 months before.
Good for you.
Never having designed anything, and it was apparel of all it was a duster, it was clothing. I mean, it was
Oh,
like I went right from 0
yeah.
to 360 miles per hour,
Yeah,
like,
like, not a pot holder, no, I'm making a clothing
yeah,
right off
I'm
the
just
bat.
gonna go for it.
Good for you.
So yeah, it was kind of, a plunge.
Mhm.
And but it's been a real learning experience for me, obviously, starting out that way. I've learned a lot about design. I've taken a
Mhm.
lot of classes, and always learning more about how I can improve my craft is basically, how, and I think that's what we should always be doing, trying
Mhm.
to learn ways. And of course, I had never done a website before. I had never done any of those things. So everything was new all at the same time. So that was
Yeah.
a little stressful.
Yeah, I bet. But do you feel like having crocheted for so long before then that you're able to kinda jump right in the patterns and figure them out?
Yeah, I think so. And my Aunt Dorothy did such a great job in teaching me because she taught me the fundamentals. It was like, she taught me how to read patterns, how
Mhm.
to how to see things and then implement them. And so I was able to pick up on things a lot quicker, maybe than someone who was a newer crocheter.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can get preconceived notions, though. And I talked a little bit about that OCD thing. So you
Mhm.
kind of have to break outside that box of what's the right way to do it and what's
Mhm.
the wrong way to do it, because sometimes doing it the wrong way can give you the most amazing results.
Yeah.
And not that I'm advocating you doing it the
Absolutely.
wrong way, but
Yeah.
you're experimenting sometimes with things, and
Mhm.
you are learning how to do something at the same time. But if you change it a little bit, you can give it a totally different look. And so
Mhm.
sometimes it's just breaking it and then fixing it. If that
Yes.
makes sense.
I love that is such an entrepreneur, like, energy. That's great. Cause yeah, in order to create anything new, you gotta experiment and you gotta break things down and redo it. So,
It's
that's great.
absolutely yes.
Great mindset to have.
It served me quite well.
Yeah, I bet. Look at you now. So, what would you say is your favorite type of pattern to make?
This one was hard. So I tend to get easily bored with doing the same thing over and over again. It's the reason why, because there are crocheters that make money as makers and sellers, on Etsy and that type of thing. And
Mhm.
that just never appealed to me because I don't want to make the same thing more than once or twice. And so
Yeah.
this niche really fits my personality. But that also, for me anyway, not for maybe everyone else, but I have a tendency of only wanting to design a certain type of thing
Mhm.
once, and then I want to go
Mhm.
on to something else. So I'm
Yeah.
I kind of tend to go all over the place, but I do seem to gravitate towards to things like making things for my grandkids.
Mhm.
Also, I love to make fashion accessories for myself. I love fashion. I love bags. I love all that stuff. And so I kind of tend to gravitate to designing those things. And I love color work and crochet. So I
Mhm.
love corner to corner. I love tapestry. I like making works of art um, in blankets and that type of thing, like telling a
Yeah.
story a little bit in it.
Yeah.
So those are
Yeah.
kind of the things I tend to gravitate to, but I make all kinds. I'll do blankets and
Mhm.
all kinds of stuff. Home decor. I just kind of
Yeah.
go from I love Christmas stuff, though. If it could be
Yeah.
Christmas, like, all year long, I would totally get on board with that.
The happiest time of year. I will second that.
I love making Christmas things.
I'm sure it's so fun with all your grandkids too around the
Oh
Christmas
gosh,
holidays.
they're, like, always sneaking peeks at what is Nana making because it might be for us.
Uh-huh. I think I saw on your website you have stocking, patterns, right? For people to make their own Christmas stockings?
I do, and, I'm making these, and this is Halloween, but I'm making these cute little, ponytail
Oh,
holders because
yeah.
we were going to the pumpkin patch, and the kids, got all dressed up in their stuff, and so I just quick whipped these up and thought they could put these in their hair, and oh my gosh, they were so excited to
Oh my goodness.
to see those.
So
So
cute.
it's almost like life kind of can guide some of my just because of what we're doing or what's happening
Yeah.
with the grandkids. So
Oh, yeah. That's so innovative too, the ponytail holders, that's so cool.
they love them. So now I'm
I
getting
love
the, are you going to make a snowman one? And are you going to make a reindeer one? And
You're like, "I guess so." That's so cool. It just shows how you're kinda meant to do that though, because 'cause you're so innovative about it, have so many ideas and get energy and fulfillment from it.
Mhm. There's
So
people that ask all the time, they're like, "Don't you run out of ideas? You know, can't do you ever feel" I'm like, "Are you joking? I have
yeah,
so
you're like,
many
"Look at
things.
this."
I don't have enough time to do all the things that I have ideas for. If I could just hire people to just, okay, I dreamt about this. So if you could
Yeah.
make that for me, that would be awesome."
Oh, that's so cool you even dream about it, I love
Well, I
that.
have something by my bed sometimes that I just, wake up and write.
Yeah. Little, like, dream journal. You're like
I dreamt about this design last night.
Yeah. Oh, so cool. I mean, definitely meant to be. Love that.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of I have a tendency of actually getting too immersed in it sometimes. I have to
Mm.
try to break away a little bit because otherwise, you'll be talking to someone and all of a sudden your mind is drifting to this problem you're having with the design, like, "What could I do to fix that?" And they're, like, asking you a question and you're like, "I have no idea what you just said."
Oh, that's so fun though. What a cool and expansive thing for people to listen to that you're so passionate about this and you made a career out of it. That's so
Yeah,
incredible.
it's kind of crazy when you think about it because I mean, if someone would have told me, 6 years ago that I would be doing this and making a
Mhm.
living at it, I would have thought they were crazy. There's
Yeah.
no way.
Yeah, but now look at you.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of the perfect segue. What led you to decide to start your blog and to begin selling patterns?
Well, I worked in customer service actually for 30 plus years. So that's really my background. And then for
Mm,
the last 15 years or so of my career, I worked managing two family practice clinics.
mm,
So I had a lot of computer experience. I had a lot of experience of working with people and building relationships. And I really felt like I wanted to do something for me. So I'm 50 now. At the time, I was 46, I think, when I first started. So it was kind of one of those moments where I always wanted to do something for me. I always wanted to have my own business. And it's like, okay, either you do it or you shut up about it. It's
yeah,
it's kind of one of those moments where this is now, and if you don't if you don't try, you're going to regret it. And
mhm,
I didn't want to be looking back in 20 years and think, gosh, why didn't I ever take that risk? And I'm not a gambler at heart. I like security. We all like security, right?
mhm.
Um,
Totally.
and I had worked really hard to get to a place of security in my field. I was doing really well in what I had been doing and was respected in my work life. And so it was tough because you had to leave that, but my husband was like, "No, you need to try.
Mhm.
Try it, see what happens." And so I worked full time actually for the first year. I was working full time at my day job, my real job, and
Mhm.
then doing this on the side, which is kind of funny because I mean, on the side is really like 30 hours a week. Uh,
Yeah.
because all that first stuff, it's
Yeah.
even learning how to do anything, getting your
Mhm.
blog started and the domain and learning all of the terminology behind all of it. SEO, I mean, it was like another language for me.
Mhm.
So it was hard that first year. It was really tough because, you're not really making any money.
Mhm.
When you first start out for most people.
Mhm.
And so you're doing all this work and you're not seeing a lot of return or perceived return. And after a year, my husband and I sat down and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep doing a stressful job like that and then try to come home and still have a home life and still see the grandkids and still do all of those things. It was just getting to be too much. And so he said, "Look, let's quit. I want you to quit your job. And I want to support you while you're doing this." And we had a plan that I would hopefully replace my income within 5 years of quitting my job. Well, it took one.
Oh,
So,
what a success story. I love that. Good job.
so it was so shocking. I mean, it was like you kind of have this idea of how things are going to go, and you think, okay,
Mm.
well, um, and then it's so much better than what you anticipate. I mean, and of course, not everyone is going to have that same experience, obviously, but
Mhm.
it was so empowering in a way to have that
Mhm.
kind of success so quickly. I was able to actually monetize with Mediavine 5 months after I started my blog initially. So I was
Mm.
already getting some money,
Mhm.
even while I was still working my full time job. So I had the confidence, I think, at that point.
Mhm.
Like, this is
Oh,
doable.
yeah.
I
Oh,
think
yeah.
I can do this if I keep doing what I'm doing, if I'm consistent and
Mhm.
just plug away at it. I think eventually I'm going to have success. It's just a matter of how long is it going to take
Mhm.
before that happens. So I was fortunate
Yeah.
and blessed to be able to quit my job to really focus on my passion
Oh,
and
yeah.
really see if it would pay off.
That's incredible. I love that you said, you're not much of a gambler, but it's like if you're ever gonna bet on something, bet on your passion because that's probably what's gonna bring you success.
Absolutely. You have to have the safety net, obviously.
Mhm.
Some of that, you don't want people living out in the street, but
Yeah, yeah.
I was fortunate to have that backup. And
Mhm.
by having that backup and that confidence and that initial really kind of um some success, some light at the end of the tunnel, even at the beginning, it helped me to see the bigger picture. Um, it is hard if you're constantly just throwing yourself into your business and you just keep going back and back and back. It would have been hard for me to make that decision, but
Mm.
once I did that and I was able to just focus all of my attention, then I had something to prove. You
Yeah.
know, it's like
Yeah, you
I
did.
just quit my job, and these people are the CEOs looking at me like, "You're gonna do what now? You can what? You can make money doing that?" I don't see that happening. I mean, these skeptical, like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't see how that's gonna work out for you. We'll see you in a year," you know?
Yeah.
But so having that to prove too, to
Mhm.
myself, to my husband, to other people, it was like I left a really good job to do this.
Mhm.
I need to throw my whole self at it and see what
Yeah.
happens. So
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's so good. Thank you. So, what was your process look or what did it look like from, like, starting your business until now? So you mentioned, like, you didn't know much about blogging,
Oh gosh.
so kinda what did that look like?
Oh yeah. I was actually kind of amazed at how inexpensive it was to start that
Mhm,
business. I mean, it was like on day 1, go live, I had spent like $200 total,
mhm, mm,
to get started. And so that was and I wanted to keep kind of that at the beginning. I didn't want to be a drain on our finances, trying to do this thing that I didn't know if it was going to work or not. So I was trying to keep things as inexpensive as possible at the beginning. So the free theme, you know, trying to do everything as manual as possible, not paying out a lot of money on a lot of different things. But I started taking classes. So that's where I
mhm.
invested my money. It was
Nice.
learn how to blog. I took a class on like the Pinterest mastermind. I mean, I did different things that I I knew I needed to learn about SEO,
Mhm.
in order to make my blog successful. My photos were horrendous at the beginning. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Um, and so I took a photography course, and
Oh,
that was a game changer for me to learn on my camera and how to use it and lighting and how to get that set up and how to do flat lays. And so those I think were probably the best things that I did for my business at the beginning, was just constantly trying to learn as much as I could about the process.
mhm.
And as I learned, I mean, obviously at the beginning I knew nothing. And so I did a lot of things wrong, but you learn
Oh,
from those wrong things, right? I don't
absolutely.
advocate people to do wrong things, but sometimes that wrong thing can help you learn how to do it the right way. And once you've done it the wrong way, you're like, I'm not doing that again. and, and it kind of helps you grow. And hindsight always being 2020. But um it was that first year, I learned so much about social media, um,
Mhm,
and also how to that connection with people that I had learned throughout my customer service career, making
mhm,
connections with individuals that really helped create a loyal following for me, particularly
mhm,
on Facebook. So, everyone talks about social media being from the devil, and, yeah, I mean, you can really get sucked down the rabbit hole down there. But,
mhm.
I learned that you can make connections with people. You respond to people, and I started doing Facebook Lives, and I would have regulars, and they would show up, and they would share my patterns, and they would sign up for my newsletter, and they would send me emails, and every single person who ever emailed me, I would always respond to. And I think that's what really helped grow my business at the beginning, was developing those relationships with people early on.
Mhm.
And that loyalty then just made it grow. And it grew
Yeah,
it faster, I think, because of that. And I'm big on the relationship thing anyway, the networking thing with other people. Um, l Learning from other people if you
yeah,
can, as much as possible, and creating relationships with other people, in the business, whether they're your colleagues, like other crochet pattern designers, or like Tailwind, or,
mhm,
just people relationships matter. And I think
yeah.
more so now than ever, because that's broken down. That's been so broken down over the last few years, that I think we forget how important it is that we have relationships with other people.
Yeah, absolutely, that's beautiful, and especially during COVID, I mean, now more than ever, we have, like,
Gosh.
communities online and relationships online, and
Mhm.
it's such a great time to connect with people who, are doing what you're doing and who have some tips and all of that.
Yeah, I really think that people just need to be themselves.
Mhm.
And, don't try to be something that you're not.
Yeah.
Because at first that's intimidating, putting yourself out there, especially if you've never done anything like that before and these are strangers that are watching you but you just need to be who you are. I am who I am um and people are going to respond to that. Your followers, the people that like you as you you're going to repel the people who don't like you. And
Yeah.
that's fine.
Absolutely. That's what's
That is
supposed to happen.
that's what's supposed to happen.
Like, it's in your best life. You repel all the people that don't vibe with you, and then you call in all the people that
Exactly.
do. Perfect. So what, between wearing like all of the hats from pattern creation to blogging, social media, how do you avoid burnout while juggling so many different things?
So, I would say that is probably one of the most difficult things. As a blogger, and as you say, all the hats you have to wear with
Mhm.
marketing, and some of those things you don't really like. I mean, there are
Yeah.
things that I have to do. I don't get to sit and crochet all day. In fact, I would say that's probably the least time intensive thing that I do is the actual
Mhm.
crocheting. Um, so it is really, for me, trying to disconnect. I have a set work time for the most part. I do like to be somewhat flexible for family. If there's appointments or, an activity going on that I want to participate in, I can work around that. But for the most part, I kind of have a designated work schedule.
Mhm.
I work while my husband's at work. And then when he comes home, I walk away from the computer and I try not to spend too much time like checking my emails or, as much as possible disconnecting away and having a normal life outside
Yeah.
of the social media, outside
Mhm.
of, all of that stuff that's going on my business when he's there or when we are out and about or doing things with family
Yeah.
and doing things for myself too. Spending time with my mom, spending time with my sister, my family, my grandkids, doing things with
Mhm.
them, and just enjoying that time and trying to forget. That's
Mhm.
hard though because we're being business owners. you know, we always have this, well, what's happening with that? How much money am I making today? Or,
Mhm.
did someone tag me on something? So we always have that stuff going on in the background. And so it can be difficult to put that barrier between our personal and work life. But I
Yeah.
do think it's really, really important. I just read a great book too. It's called The 12-Week Year, and
Mm.
it's about it's about focusing on the big stuff and identifying those key areas of your business that really need the most attention, that make you the most money, or that
Mhm.
give you the best benefit. And then those little things that you get dragged down by, distracted by, trying to keep those to a minimum and at designated times of the day, like responding to email and social media and all of that.
Mhm.
So that seems to really be helping me focus. And because, gosh, there are so many things that you could be doing. I could literally be working 24/7 and still
Mhm.
have things to do. There's just
Yeah.
always something. Oh, I could be optimizing a blog post, or I could
Mhm.
be, looking at my SEO, or I could be analyzing my Google Analytics, right? It's like
Yeah.
there's always something that you could be doing.
Yeah.
And so it's just really highlighting those big things and making sure those things get accomplished.
Absolutely. I love that. So really just like having boundaries between
Yes.
um work and personal life because oh sorry, cat.
Okay. I know my dog's out there whining at me like, "What are
Yeah.
you doing in
Like,
there?"
excuse me, miss. Yeah. Um, but, sorry, lost my train of thought. So yeah, so boundaries, so so good, especially as an entrepreneur. I mean, like you're saying, you can take on so much and then that can really just suck the passion out of what you're doing too. When you have those boundaries, you can rest, you can rejuvenate. I mean, that's what allows you to keep propelling yourself forward too.
Absolutely. And, it is hard because there is a tendency for inertia when when
Mhm.
you're going to work in your pajamas. It's easy to like get distracted by Netflix and,
Mhm.
oh, well, I'll just go do this or I'll just go do that. So it is important that I keep a somewhat regimented schedule just so that I know I can keep focused on the
Mhm.
tasks that I need to do every day so that I can continue to grow my business while at the same time not getting lost in the fact that I don't want to live to work. I want to
Mhm.
work to live. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's really why I wanted this business in the first place. So don't think, oh, because it's easy. It's easy to be like, well, if I work harder, I'll make more money. And,
Mhm.
it's like, stop, 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 stop. You want your husband to still love you at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, you wanna still be you at the end
You
of the
know,
day.
you want him to still recognize your face.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great, thank you. Um, so looking back, is there anything that you would have done differently?
Oh, golly. Probably started sooner. I
Yeah,
wish
I love that. So many people say that during these interviews.
I wish I would have done that, like, 5 years earlier. I would say probably the biggest thing would be to not get discouraged by the mistakes. We talked
Yeah.
about that a little bit earlier, but you're going to. There's
Mhm.
just you're not going to do things perfectly, especially
Yeah.
at the beginning. I mean, even now, I've been doing this now for 4 years, and I still do things, wrong. I find out later, "Oops, I should have probably not done that," "Maybe I could have
Mhm.
done that differently or better." But if we get lost in the weeds of constantly regretting things that we've done in the past, we're never going to be looking to the future.
Mhm.
And, so I would also say, we touched on this a little bit too before, is my biggest advice would be to learn as much as you can.
Mhm.
Knowledge in your base and in your craft, whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're a food blogger or whatever, taking classes, learning pastry, whatever, and just learn about blogging and taking classes, investing your time and energy in learning how to make yourself better, even self-help, how to
Mhm.
be encouraged by um, the things that are going on in your life, how to be empowered to do more.
Yeah.
I think that's really probably the best thing that you can do for your business is just to be knowledgeable, to learn, and to know that you're here and you're doing this because you have an entrepreneurial spirit,
Mhm.
and that that's that's big. I mean, you're just
Yeah.
not willing to go with the flow. You
Mhm.
you want to do more, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, you're such a good motivational speaker. Maybe you could add that to your to-do list. Some motivational YouTube videos for business owners. So, what do you like most about owning your own business?
So there's a lot here. I love the flexibility of it. We touched on that before too, working around my
Mhm.
family's schedule, being able to spend time with my grandkids, fitting those things in that are really important to me, my family. Um, from a personal standpoint, beyond like family and my social relationships, knowing that my success or failure is entirely dependent on me. So
Yeah.
I don't get to blame anybody else for what happens. So it's like, it's on me. The harder I work, the more I do, the better I do. It's all because of what I'm doing. And
Mhm.
that is really empowering. There's a lot of confidence building in that. And I think when you start seeing the results of your labors, there's so much confidence that you can gain from seeing those positive results. Like, wow, I'm making money doing this. I'm doing something that I've never done before, that I learned how to do through taking classes or whatever, and I took my passion and I'm making money with it. I mean,
Mhm.
what is better about that? And
Yeah.
that's going to make you feel good about your business, about yourself. It's going to make your relationships with your family better because you feel better about yourself. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I think that that's probably the best thing about my business, is that it has really made me confident in who I am and where I'm at in my life, and I love it.
Yeah. That is incredible. I love that. What advice would you give to someone wanting to start a business to consumer company?
So I would say find others that are doing what
Mm,
you're doing and make connections. So
mhm,
this business can be really isolating. We sit
mhm.
at a computer. I'm at home with my dog and my cat every day. It's like
Yeah.
we work from home. We don't, most, I would have to say that most people, I mean, this could be wrong, but I don't know. I only know one other person personally that does this for a living.
Mm,
So that is difficult because we're used to having those conversations with people in social settings. You talk about what you do at work. You can bounce things off of others because even if they're not doing exactly what you're doing, it's similar enough that you can have a conversation. Most people look at me with this quizzical look on their face like, "You do what now?" You make money at that? I mean, someone pays you to do that? I mean, it's just
Yeah.
you almost don't even know what to tell people,
Mm.
especially strangers when you meet them for the first time. It's like, "Well, what do you do for a living?" "Well, how do I explain this so that they're gonna understand what I do for a living?" Um, I think that was probably one of the best things that I did at the beginning, was find other groups of people, so other crochet pattern designers in groups that do what I do. They
Mm,
they design patterns, they blog, they
mhm,
sell patterns, they do all of those things, and so you feel like you can have a conversation with them. You can ask questions. You can, well, what's your opinion? Well, what did you do? And how do you think I should do this? And did you have luck doing that? And so you're able to build relationships with people who are in a similar niche, and
yeah.
y- you know, s- spend time really picking each other's brains about
Mhm.
becoming successful at what you're doing. And I have built some amazing relationships because of those early forays into Facebook groups, bloggers, and
Yeah.
you know, it's you like to feel, I mean, we're social creatures, and we like to feel that um, that we have others that understand what we do, you know.
Oh, yeah. That's so great too that, having those relationships and having it not be competitive, but having it be, kind of symbiotic and helping each other and,
Yeah,
um
I am not, so people would say, well, those people are your competitors. And it's like, well, I suppose on some level, I suppose you could look at things like that, but I don't see the benefit of that. I
Mhm,
look at them as colleagues more so than competitors, because the more that we grow what we do and reach people who have never encountered crochet before or maybe are
mhm,
new to it, the more we make that more mainstream, the more
mhm,
people are going to be drawn to it. And I think that
mhm,
that's really important, that we work together and that we
mhm,
not be backstabbing and, it's like, oh, undercutting and doing all of
mhm.
these things. It's just counter. I just don't think that's productive.
Yeah.
It goes back to that relationship thing that we talked about, building
Mhm.
relationships with people and truly being your authentic self and being,
Yeah.
I guess if you're a meanie,
Yeah.
if you're a mean
Yeah.
girl at heart, I suppose.
I
haven't
just
encountered any of those, so
yeah. Oh, I love that though. I mean, most people they're just trying to figure it out as they go, and
oh
there's so much
gosh.
business for everybody, so
There is, and so
it's
many
so
of these
great.
people, I mean, the stories you hear behind why people started their business. I mean, some people,
Mhm,
it's like I wanted to do something that would help. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I homeschool my kids. I wanted
mhm.
an income that would help our family. My husband's got cancer. I needed to figure something else out. I mean, everyone has a story.
Yeah.
Everybody is a person with emotions, and we're not just this cyber person that
Mhm.
doesn't have a background. So it's
Yeah.
just remembering to have empathy for people too. And I
Yeah.
learned that in the medical field. So
Yeah. Get getting all the tools in your toolbox, leading
exactly.
you here.
Exactly.
So from a business perspective, what made you decide to use Tailwind?
Well, funny story about that. So remember I talked about how cheap I wanted to go at the beginning, and that can
Yeah.
kind of be your detriment, honestly. I resisted Tailwind for the first, I would say, year to maybe 2 years of my business. I was manually pinning on Pinterest every
Oh,
day.
wow.
Oh, it
Yeah.
was insane. I mean, I would, like, set my clock, my timer for
Yeah.
'cause you I wanted to manually pin. I didn't wanna do, like, 30 pins all at one time.
Mhm.
So, I would do, like, 5 pins in the morning and then 10 pins at, between 11 and 1, and then I would do it again in the evening, and so I'd try to spread them all out, but I was manually doing it. It was nuts. I was spending
Right.
way too much time doing that, and, a lot of people in that great crochet group that I talked about, they were talking up Tailwind and how much it had helped them, and they were networking a lot with the communities, that Tailwind had, tribes at that time, they were called, and I thought, "Wow, maybe this is something I need to do. I need to figure out a way to free up more of my time so I'm not wasting it." I mean, even though Pinterest wasn't a time waster for me, I was getting a lot of traffic from Pinterest.
Mhm.
It was like, I feel like I could be utilizing my time better if
Yeah.
I could get that off of my plate. So I started with Tailwind, and it was like an instant game changer. I'm like, "What did I wait for? I just don't understand. What's your problem?" Um, yeah, I love Tailwind right from the beginning. The ability to schedule out pins, to be able to pin to multiple boards, having because one of the things I couldn't figure out at the beginning, so I'm like, why can't I get any of these other crochet pattern designers to follow me on Pinterest? I get tons of, I mean, as of now, I think I have 73,000 followers on Pinterest. So my Pinterest
Mm.
account was growing,
Mhm.
but it was usually people, like individual people, 3 followers, 5 followers, 10 followers, whatever.
Mhm.
But I'm like, "Where are all the crochet pattern designers? Nobody follows me. They don't pin any of my stuff." Well, it's because they were all in the Tailwind tribes, and they would only pin from Tailwind. And so if you weren't
Mm.
in Tailwind, they didn't see your things. It was
Yeah.
like you didn't exist for them because your pins weren't where they would be to pin.
Oh, wow.
So that was like a game changer because it was, people that were well-known designers that had been
Mhm.
established were in these tribes, and now were pinning my things. And they were pinning them to these larger boards that had tons of followers, because some of these designers had, you know, 1 million followers. And so I think that really grew my account too. I
Yeah.
really started gaining a lot more followers when I went to Tailwind, and I think for that reason, because my pins were being seen by a
Mhm.
lot more people. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of my regrets, is actually not joining Tailwind sooner.
Well, it's incredible the success that you've had with it, like, using Tailwind too, and
Oh
how much it's
gosh,
helped.
I just love how easy it makes it. I love the connections that I can make with other designers, especially new designers. this goes back to the relationship thing, but I'm
Mhm.
really, it's really important to me that I support like the newer designers. I was a new designer. And what some of those more established designers did for me at the beginning, like sharing my stuff on Facebook and doing different things like that, helped me grow.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to give back to those newer designers. And so it was a great way for me to come in contact with some of those newer people that I didn't know anything about. And I actually share a lot of other crochet pattern designers' designs on Facebook. It's actually one of the things that a lot of people will say to me is, "I just love to follow you because you share so many other people's designs," which
Mm.
is a weird thing. Because, some people would probably think, "Well, gosh, you follow me because I share other people's stuff." That's great. Do you like my stuff or not? But I looked at it as it's a way to support other people,
Yeah.
in the craft and to help them try to grow their businesses too, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. And it shows the confidence that you have in your own products too, that you're like, "Hey, I can share all this stuff because I know it's not gonna take away from the great stuff I have too."
Absolutely. And that's the other thing, because I think it was what, a year or so ago, that Pinterest best practices, for the longest time they said best practices on Pinterest were to share not just your own content. It should be like
Mhm.
a 75-25 or 60-40 or mix of yours and
Yeah.
theirs. And so that's back when everybody was sharing everyone else's pins, and then only sharing half would be theirs a day. And then all of a sudden, I think it was probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, Pinterest is like, "You don't have to worry about pinning other people's stuff." And I was like, "What?" That doesn't seem right to me. Okay, so yeah, you can do you, but yeah, I'm still sharing other designer stuff. And I think
Yeah.
that for user experience, it's like, how how annoying would that be to my 70 some thousand Pinterest followers if I'm just sharing all my stuff all the time? It's like they're getting
Mhm.
bombarded with my things. I have 100 and
Mhm.
some patterns, but I mean, come on. If I'm sharing 30 pins a day or 20 pins a day or whatever, I'm going to cycle through my stuff pretty quickly. And so I just feel like from a user standpoint that it was, and but primarily, again, it goes back to the support and the relationships. It was important to me that I continued to share other designers' patterns, whether Pinterest
Yeah.
thought it was best practice or not.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Good for you.
I'm gonna buck the system on that one.
That's right. So, what would you say is your favorite Tailwind feature and why?
Oh, definitely create. That
Mm.
was a complete game changer for me. I
Mhm.
am not a graphic designer. My brother is, but I am not. He's an artist in every way, shape, and form, and I would be lucky if I could draw a straight line. So, um,
I can relate to that.
so it's kind of like one of those. Yeah, the marketing part, the making a pin
Mhm.
thing was so daunting. That was probably one of the worst things at the beginning for me, was trying to figure out what a good pen was.
Mhm.
I knew my photos needed work, and I did get to a point where my photos, even as a standalone without graphics on it or anything, my photos were really good, or in my opinion, a lot better than what they had been. But it was still figuring out, I mean, there is an art to that. I mean, the template design and everything, and I just didn't feel like I had that. I was insecure about it, I guess. And so when that create feature came, it was like, "Oh, the sky's open, the sun shone. Where has this been all my life?" So I started using it immediately. And it was so fast. It was so easy. I could download that pin that I wanted. I could send it to my communities for easy for them to access, and also schedule it and do it all at the same time. Sorry, I've had a bit of a cold, so I'm starting to lose
No.
my voice. I'm talking too much, I think. Um,
No, it's good. We're getting all that good info out of you.
so yeah, just from that standpoint alone, I think that uh, Tailwind is worth it just simply for the create feature because I spend so much less time worrying about my Pinterest pins and the design aspect. It's just so easy. My biggest trouble now is which pin to pick. Because
Mm,
there's all
yeah.
these choices and, you
Yeah.
can arrange the photos differently and everything. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh, which one am I gonna pick? Oh, that one's good and that one's good."
A good problem to have.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, definitely Tailwind Create. That's
Oh,
awesome.
nice. That's so great. I'm so happy to hear that. I love Tailwind Create too, and lots of people have been saying that in these, interviews I've been doing, that
Oh, I
it's a really
bet.
great feature.
Yeah, that to me, if you need to be selling that everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you hear that product? Okay.
I mean, seriously, it's like, I think even in my so I did how we came to do the interview was the fact that I had done the "How is Tailwind Create working for you?" and all of that.
Mm,
So, I think I even said, "You guys need to be doing, like, showing it on Facebook,
mm,
and if people could see." And heck, even in, like, my crochet, so I'm a member of a crochet business academy, and that I
mm,
pay for, and that's part of my whole learning education thing. But gosh, if Tailwind could even, like, do a demonstration for that group, because these
mm.
are all bloggers, these are people in
Yeah.
my business, and the ones that aren't using Tailwind, if they could see what it could do, I
Mhm.
think that it would sell itself. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
that's my personal opinion, that there
Yeah.
needs to be more, yeah, we can say, "Hey, I use Tailwind," but until people really see the functionality of it, they're hesitant. It's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
hey, I was there." I was like, "Oh, well, that's so much money per month, and I don't wanna do that." Um But golly, if I had seen it in action, I'd have been like, "Okay, sign me up, sign me
Yeah.
up."
Yeah, no, that's a really great idea. I'm gonna put that down and bring it up to my manager, be like,
Yeah,
"So."
definitely. Yeah, definitely, you guys need I mean, there's a ton of, like, groups for bloggers and stuff like that too, and I'm sure that
Oh, yeah.
they especially ones that are, like, they've offered courses, like Bjork,
Mhm. Yeah.
with his Food Blogger Pro or whatever,
Mhm.
having Tailwind do something with him, and he's got so many people. I'm just here, I'm trying to make you money.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, much appreciated.
Sorry, I'm like telling people what to do. I'm like, hey, that's not your job anymore.
No, it's good. We need that entrepreneur energy, those abilities to get unstuck and see different perspectives. It's nice. So what's next for Nana's Crafty Home?
Oh wow, the sky's the limit.
Mhm.
Um, so I've had some really great things happen over the last year with my business. Two of my designs have been featured on the front cover of a magazine. Uh,
Congratulations.
Thanks. So that brought me a lot of exposure and
Mhm.
kind of brought me more into the mainstream a little bit, which has
Yeah.
been awesome. And because of that relationship with them, it blossomed into their social media manager reaching out to me. And so now I'm
Mhm.
doing a Facebook Live tutorial for them on their Facebook page every month. And that's helping me reach a lot more people. So I'm really just hoping that I continue to have those opportunities to just,
Mm.
show what I do to
Mhm.
teach people. That's really my passion, is to
Yeah.
really teach people who want to learn more about crochet and to just reach them, find them wherever they might
Yeah.
be. And hopefully and I think that that will probably just grow my business. So,
Yeah, absolutely, that exposure is so great.
oh gosh. Yeah, when that happened, it was like, "Oh my word, I wish Aunt Dorothy were still alive," because
Oh.
the magazine the magazine, it's so funny because that magazine's been around forever.
Mm,
And of course, back in the day, before internet, the only way you could get crochet patterns or anything was like in a magazine or in a book.
right.
And we would get that magazine once a month. She had a subscription, and we would get so excited when it would come just to be able to see the designs that were in it and to pick things out that we wanted to make. And
Wow.
now to have my
Oh,
design on the front cover of that magazine, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's
yes,
me."
it's full circle, that's so
My mom's
cool.
like, "How many copies did you buy? I'm sending them to everybody."
Like 75. Counting. Oh, that would be me at least.
My mom's, like, sending them in the mail.
Oh, that's so cool. So
Oh
supportive too.
god. It was exciting. I have to admit, I did cry a little tear when that magazine came
Yeah.
in the mail. It was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's who knew? Who knew?"
Oh, I love that. Well, this interview has been so, so great. You have been given so much information, and it was just such a pleasure getting to know you and sitting
Oh, it
down
was
with
nice
you.
visiting with you. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Do you have any other questions?
No, I think we covered everything. I talked for an entire hour, so I
Yeah,
don't
we did
know.
it. We're good. Yeah. Good job, team.